fortunately, I was in professional school. I was going to functional medicine conferences. So I'm in there with every medical profession and people that are curious. So I'm asking around now. I'm like, anybody heard of Lyme disease? Could this be a thing? Anybody know anybody that does that? And honestly, the answer was like, not really. It wasn't what it is now where people can go to Instagram and be like, Lyme disease, who does this? So I finally found a guy in Wisconsin. I drove up there and that was his specialty. That's what he did. And I walk in, he does some rudimentary testing and he's like, look, the lab tests suck. We can do some things. And then he put me through a protocol and immediately, and I'm one of the fortunate ones immediately. Yeah. So like within 3 to 6 months, I started seeing changes.
Wow.
And
how many years at this point had you been suffering with the symptoms?
If I really look back, I'm thinking somewhere between 18 and 19 is when stuff started. Wow. Up until 17, I was back squat 700 pounds. I had no knee pain. My vertical was 36 inches. I ran a 4.640. I ran a 10.900 meter dash. Like I was after it.
You were close to the NFL with those numbers. You get that 40 speed up.
Yeah. And then it was just like, I just stopped. Like I just stopped improving. I started getting knee pain. I started getting sore throats. I started developing food allergies. So I ended up looking back on things after the fact. Now I know what I know. I lived in this basement because I was poor and I was cheap and it was covered in mold. Ugh. I mean, I actually would squeegee the water back to the drain after it would flood because it was cheap. So I just had everything lifted up. I didn't put any things on the ground besides like the metal legs or wooden, whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's just a little mold. It's natural, right? It's normal. It's everywhere, right? Well, no, it's not now. But then that was the mindset, like so many people I work with. So yeah, I mean, just freshman to sophomore year of college is when things really started happening to me. And here we are 25 in professional school and I go up and I get some tests and some treatment. And I tell you what, man, within months, I'm like, I'm a new person. By the time I got out of school, so 25, I was like 28 when I finally got my feet on the ground in practice, right? It takes some time to graduate, get through your boards, get a practice, be able to breathe and not just simply work.
Yeah.
I started CrossFitting. And by like 30, I was top 1% of CrossFitters as far as like the games was concerned when you do your CrossFit open thing. So I had a couple guys in my gym that were trying to go to the games. I wasn't. I would just compete against them.
You were just training, yeah.
And I was on par with those guys and they were in the top 1%. So I was like, this is just fun for me. And that's kind of where I sat. And I got back to feeling good and being athletic again, but I missed like a decade of my life of being athletic because my body just didn't work right.
Well, and in your prime, like athletic time is your 20s. So
yeah.
Then when you were starting to feel better, so you obviously moved, you weren't living in the moldy basement anymore. When did you start to piece those things together that, hey, this might be where things went downhill for me and understand kind of what you had to change?
I'll tell you what, man, I was 90% better before I ever thought of any of this because here's the deal. Like I went to him, he was a Lyme doc. He worked on Lyme. Sure. He said, you got to get your vitamins in and detox. And it was Lyme. That was it. And I got better mostly to what I thought was better. And then I went into practice and he started sending me all these Lyme people. Like, here you go. Here's one. If you don't know about Lyme as you're listening, and 2014, 15, that was like the worst person you could get in because they were so difficult. There wasn't a lot of tools. There wasn't much knowledge. We didn't know about the other coexisting problems very much as far as the widespread knowledge. So I was getting all of these very difficult situations sent to me and I had time to research and learn. And sitting on a podcast with a mold expert 2 to 3 years ago, we were talking through my journey and he's like, have you ever lived in mold or had mold affect you? And I was like, no, not really. I work with it now. And I was like, oh, wait, what? Oh man. Like it just hit me. I was like, that's what took me down. That made my immune system weak enough for Lyme and parasites to come in. And it was originally the mold. So it was, and I didn't know about metals and I didn't know about parasites. And it was always just going to conferences, I'm learning, trying to help that next client get to the next stage because they're stuck. And that's where I went. I mean, honestly, like even after Lyme to parasites to metals to molds came like fight or flight nervous system regulation. Like that's kind of what is cool and in the conversation so much online now. It's, one of the hottest researched or Googled words is nervous system regulation or somatic work. And what even is that? Well, for me, I always break everything down to way too simple. But for me, it's if your body is stuck in a state where it doesn't feel safe, whether you are living in a reason for that, or you've experienced stress from trauma or work that is triggering that, or the combination, or even if you have a problem in your body, a colonization of mold that's from the past, or a Lyme disease that's going on, any of those things can dysregulate you on a nervous system level that makes you feel internally, subconsciously, or consciously unsafe. And that's another piece of the puzzle. And fortunately, I really never personally got to that point, but I work with so many people that is a hiccup that if it's not dealt with, just like if mold's not dealt with, or Lyme or parasites, they're not getting well. And I had so many people that reached 90%, and I went searching. And the latest link, or maybe not latest, but the most popular link recently was, oh, let's bring in some neurofeedback and somatic work and some limbic work. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, that next 10% is better.
Wow. So what I find so interesting is, first of all, it feels like everything is killing us or making us sick, right? You named, I think a lot of people have no idea what the symptoms of Lyme are, parasites, mold poisoning or toxicity that could be causing autoimmune disorders, all of the water, which we'll get into, all of this stuff. If I'm someone who's not feeling right and I don't even know where to start, right? Like, I feel like I don't know. I'm like looking around my place. I'm like, do I got mold in here? Like, we had some roof work done last year. Like, should I be checking for that kind of stuff if you're not feeling right? How do people like even take a step forward if they know something's wrong but haven't been able to get a diagnosis?
Yeah. Well, obviously that I could talk on for like 4 straight hours to some degree because there's so many possibilities. But the goal is what? Balance your body so it feels well, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what if I told you that's not right? I'll do a pitch for you right now. This came to my mind. What if it's balance the biome, not the body? Well, what's a biome? It's a confusing word. People are going to start thinking microbiome. They're going to start thinking all these other things. But a biome, technically defined, is the person, right? So your body, your cells, your human cells, the organisms that you interact with inside your own body that make up your body. So all of the gut flora that we take probiotics to support, and then the environment, the external stressors. So if you just try to balance your body, like so many doctors, they're in their detox and they're killing, they're focused on changing your physiology, which is all pharmaceuticals, right? That's pretty much they're changing your physiological response. You're giving somebody a ton of these supplements, all those things that you talk to me about. You're like, I'm going to give my CoQ10 and my electrolytes, my A, B, C, D, E vitamins. Right? That's body. And then the detoxers and killers are trying to remove the stuff in you that shouldn't be there. But what about the microbiome and the interaction of all of those pieces, not just doing one piece of it? Right? So for me, it's where do you start is you balance the biome and you look at which one of those pieces of the puzzle, body, organisms, and environment, and you go, which one of these can I start correcting for? So many people listening right now, because if they're interested enough to sit on this and go, man, you've been talking for 30 minutes and we're not even getting advice yet. You're still interested. Then,
well, I think a lot of people don't know. I mean, I know your bubble on social media and they know, but I don't think a lot of people know this basic stuff. Like where you were saying, 10 years ago, living in mold, I wasn't thinking anything of it or whatever, 2013. I bet there's a lot of people that don't think anything of it. Because it isn't common knowledge, and the medical field and healthcare isn't promoting preemptive anything.
Absolutely.
It's all reactive. So I think that educating people, which is one of the reasons I have this podcast, is to like learn myself, but also like take these kind of complex ideas or things that may be ambiguous to people who don't live it every day. They don't know, and people don't know what they don't know. You know, I'm still amazed how many times I'll share with people. We talked, beforehand a little bit. I'll share with people like, hey, I have this really expensive water filter because do you know all the shit that's in our water? Like, and people don't know. And it's just because it isn't common narratives out there. Thank you for listening to this clip from the full episode of Eyes Wide Open. Please like and subscribe for daily clips and new episodes that drop every Tuesday. I appreciate you.